Sam Whitaker noticed her because he noticed everything now. Loss had done that to him, rewired his attention, sharpened it until the world felt edged with quiet threats. Ever since the fire, ever since smoke and sirens and the unbearable stillness afterward, Sam no longer moved through his days on autopilot. He watched. He listened. He counted exits. He memorized faces. So when he felt it, that faint pressure between his shoulder blades, the unmistakable sensation of being observed, he trusted it. The Ridgewood Community Center bustled the way it always did on weekday afternoons. Kids spilled out onto the steps with backpacks bouncing, parents gathered in loose clusters, voices overlapping in familiar rhythms. The smell of cut grass and sun-warmed asphalt hung in the air. Normal. Safe. Ordinary. Emma skipped a few steps ahead of him, her ponytail swinging side to side, sneakers slapping the concrete in an uneven rhythm she seemed to enjoy. She hummed softly, some tune from a cartoon Sam didn't recognize but could still hum along to if asked. She was 7, old enough to wander a few feet ahead, young enough to forget the world could ever be dangerous. Sam let her lead, his eyes tracking her automatically, the way a compass needle always returned north. That was when he saw the woman. She stood near the entrance, slightly apart from the other adults, her posture too composed for casual waiting. Dark hair pulled back neatly, hands relaxed at her sides, no phone in sight. She wasn't scanning the crowd the way parents did, eyes darting in search of familiar faces. She was still. Unmoving. Watching. At first, Sam assumed she was looking at someone else. He shifted slightly, angling his body to test the line of sight. But the pressure didn't ease. If anything, it intensified. Her gaze was fixed on Emma. Not admiring. Not curious. Focused. Intent. Sam felt something cold slide down his spine. He slowed his steps, instincts flaring, and Emma drifted a little farther ahead before noticing. The woman didn't move when other parents passed in front of her. She didn't blink when a group of kids ran laughing between them. Her attention never wavered. Then her eyes lifted. They met Sam's. Most people looked away when caught staring. Embarrassment, reflex, social instinct, something always broke the connection. This woman did none of that. She held his gaze steadily, calmly, as if she had expected him to notice eventually. There was no challenge in her expression. No apology either. Just something else. Recognition. Sam's heart thudded hard against his ribs. He stepped forward without thinking, lengthening his stride until he was beside Emma, then subtly in front of her. His hand brushed her shoulder, a light touch meant to guide her closer. She leaned into him automatically, still humming, still oblivious. "Daddy?" she asked, glancing up. "It's okay," he said quietly, never breaking eye contact with the woman. "Just stay close." The woman's face changed then, only slightly, but enough. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her suddenly pale, as if she'd been caught in a moment she had rehearsed but still dreaded. Her lips parted, then pressed together again. Sam felt anger surge, sharp and protective. "Who sent you?" he demanded. The words came out low and controlled, but they carried weight. The woman flinched. Just a fraction. Enough to confirm something was wrong. For a brief, suspended second, no one spoke. The noise of the afternoon faded around them, swallowed by the space between their gazes. Emma shifted beside him, sensing tension without understanding it. The woman finally looked away. Not in shame, but in calculation. She took a step back, then another, blending into the moving crowd with practiced ease. Within moments, she was gone, swallowed by minivans and chatter and the illusion of safety. Sam stood there long after she disappeared, his pulse slow but heavy, his grip still firm on Emma's shoulder. "Daddy, who was that?" Emma asked. "No one," he said, too quickly. He forced a smile, crouching to her level. Just someone waiting for somebody else. She seemed to accept that, turning back toward the parking lot, already distracted by something new. But Sam remained still, scanning faces, replaying the moment again and again. He told himself it meant nothing. A stranger in a small town. A coincidence. But the sense of safety he'd rebuilt so carefully, brick by brick after the fire, had cracked. And Sam Whitaker knew, with the certainty of a man who had learned the hard way to trust his instincts, that once something was broken like that, it never truly went back the way it was before. Sam told himself the woman was nothing. That was the lie he repeated as he buckled Emma into her car seat, as he closed the passenger door a little harder than necessary, as he walked around the truck with his jaw clenched and his thoughts spiraling. Ridgewood was small. People noticed strangers. People stared. It happened. Except this hadn't felt like staring. It had felt like waiting. The drive home passed in fragments. Emma chatted about a spelling test and a classmate who traded her apple slices for a cookie. Sam nodded at the right moments, answered when required, but his mind kept circling back to the woman's face. The stillness. The way she hadn't looked at him until she was certain he'd noticed her. The absence of surprise. That night, after Emma was asleep and the house settled into its familiar quiet, Sam stood at the kitchen sink and stared out into the dark backyard. He left the light off, a habit he'd developed after the fire. Being visible at night made him uneasy. The reflection in the glass showed a man older than his years, eyes ringed with exhaustion, shoulders permanently braced as if expecting impact. Sarah used to tease him for that stance. "You look like you're waiting for the world to throw a punch," she'd say. The world had thrown more than one. He rinsed his mug and set it in the rack, then checked the locks. Front door. Back door. Windows. He knew they were secure, he always did. Still, he checked again. In the days that followed, Sam almost forgot her. Almost. The second sighting happened outside Henderson's grocery, late afternoon, the sun low enough to turn the street into a glare-slicked mirror. Sam was loading bags into the bed of his truck while Emma sat in the cart, swinging her legs and singing under her breath. He felt calm then, anchored by routine. Until the pressure returned. Across the street, a silver sedan sat parked where no one ever parked unless they were waiting for someone. Engine off. Windows up. The windshield caught the sun, reflecting the sky like a sheet of glass. Inside the car, a silhouette. Sam froze. He straightened slowly, his hand still gripping a bag of apples, and took one deliberate step back so he could see more clearly. The glare shifted just enough. Her. The same woman. Dark hair pulled back. Face partially obscured by reflection, but unmistakable now that he was looking for her. She wasn't on her phone. She wasn't talking to anyone. She wasn't watching traffic. She was watching Emma. Sam's chest tightened. He scanned the street, half expecting her to vanish the moment he acknowledged her. She didn't. She remained still, hands likely resting in her lap, posture upright, composed. Waiting. A car passed between them, momentarily breaking the line of sight. Sam seized the moment, stepping closer to Emma, placing himself directly between the cart and the street. When the car moved on, he looked again. The sedan was still there. Coincidence, he told himself firmly. Same town. Same routes. Same schedules. It meant nothing. But as he pushed the cart toward the truck, he noticed something that made his stomach drop. The woman's gaze never once flicked toward him. It followed Emma as Sam moved her, tracked her with unsettling precision, as if Sam were nothing more than background noise. He slammed the tailgate shut and climbed into the driver's seat, heart pounding. The silver sedan pulled away seconds later, merging smoothly into traffic, disappearing before Sam could memorize the plate. That night, Emma was quieter than usual. She picked at her dinner, pushing peas into neat lines, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. Sam noticed. He always noticed. "Everything okay, kiddo?" he asked gently. She shrugged. "Yeah." He waited. Silence had a way of inviting truth. "Daddy," she said after a moment, not looking up. "Why does that lady keep looking at me?" The fork slipped from Sam's fingers and clattered against the plate. "What lady?" he asked carefully. "The one with the dark hair," Emma said. "The one from the big building. And the store." Sam forced himself to breathe. "You've seen her before?" he asked. Emma nodded. "Twice." "She doesn't smile." Sam reached across the table and took her hand, squeezing just a little too tightly. "If you ever see her again," he said, keeping his voice calm with effort, "you come straight to me. Okay?" Emma nodded again, eyes wide now. "Is she bad?" "I don't know," Sam admitted. The honesty surprised him. "But I'll keep you safe." He believed that. He had to. The third time erased all doubt. It happened at the community playground on a Saturday morning, the air cool and bright, the swings already crowded with children. Sam stood near the bench, coffee in hand, watching Emma climb the jungle gym with practiced confidence. She laughed as she reached the top. Then her laughter stopped. Sam saw her hesitate, looking down at someone he couldn't see from his angle. A woman stood near the edge of the play area, bending slightly, her voice too low to carry. Sam's body moved before his mind caught up. He started across the grass, adrenaline surging. And then the woman in the gray coat stepped into view. Ava Cross appeared as if summoned, placing herself calmly but decisively between Emma and the stranger. Her posture shifted, subtle but unmistakable. Professional. Commanding. Protective. The other woman stiffened. "I think she's done talking," Ava said quietly. Fear flickered across the stranger's face. She backed away, then turned and left without a word. Ava turned to Emma, crouching slightly. "Are you okay?" Emma nodded, clutching the bars of the jungle gym. By the time Sam reached them, breathless and furious, Ava was already stepping back. "I was just passing by," she said smoothly. "Saw something that didn't feel right." Sam stared at her, suspicion warring with reluctant gratitude. "You keep passing by," he said. Ava met his gaze. For a fraction of a second, something raw surfaced in her eyes. "Yes," she said. "I do." She gave her name, mentioned she was a lawyer, recently moved from Boston, and then she walked away, leaving Sam standing in the grass with more questions than answers. That night, Emma hugged her rabbit tight. "Daddy," she whispered, "that lady who helped me today, she looked at me like she already knew me." Sam sat in the dark long after Emma fell asleep, the house heavy with memory and unease. For the first time since the fire, he felt it clearly. Someone had stepped into their lives. And they were not there by accident. The letter arrived without sound. That, more than anything else, was what unsettled Sam Whitaker. He woke before dawn the way he often did now, not from a nightmare exactly, but from the absence of sleep's comfort. The house was still, the kind of quiet that pressed against the ears. Emma's bedroom door remained closed, a thin line of warm light glowing beneath it from the nightlight she insisted on keeping. Sam stood in the kitchen for a long moment, coffee untouched in his hand, listening. Nothing. No engine. No footsteps. No voices. When he stepped outside to check the mailbox, the air carried the faint chill of early morning, mist clinging low to the lawns like breath held too long. The town hadn't fully woken yet. No joggers. No school buses. Just the crows, perched and watching from telephone wires like they knew things people didn't. The mailbox lid creaked softly as he opened it. Bills. A grocery flyer. A folded local paper. And on top of it all, an envelope that did not belong. It was plain white. No stamp. No return address. No ink bleed through from a postal mark. It hadn't been mailed. It had been placed. Sam stood frozen, the coffee mug slipping slightly in his grip, heat seeping unnoticed into his palm. His first thought was that it was meant for someone else. That someone had made a mistake. But mistakes didn't arrive this way. He slid a finger under the flap and opened it slowly, half expecting something to leap out at him. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Crisp. Clean. Typed. 8 words. A lawyer is watching you for a reason. Sam read it once. Twice. A third time, out loud this time, his voice barely a whisper. The chill settled deep in his chest, heavier than fear. Fear was sharp. This was deliberate. He looked up, scanning the street. Every house appeared the same as it always had. Curtains drawn. Lawns undisturbed. A neighbor's porch light flicked off down the block. Nothing out of place. Except him. Except this. Inside, he locked the door behind him and placed the letter on the kitchen table like it might move on its own if he didn't keep an eye on it. His mind raced through possibilities. A prank? Unlikely. Ridgewood didn't do pranks like this. A warning? From whom? And why anonymous? There was only one part of the message that mattered. A lawyer. He didn't say her name aloud, but Ava Cross's face rose unbidden in his mind, her stillness, her focus, the way she watched Emma like she was counting something invisible. The way she'd stepped in without hesitation. The way the other woman had retreated. Sam folded the paper carefully and slipped it into his jacket pocket just as Emma padded into the kitchen, hair tangled, rabbit tucked under her arm. "Morning, Daddy," she said, yawning. "Morning," he replied, forcing warmth into his voice. He crouched and hugged her, holding on a beat longer than usual. She smelled like soap and sleep and safety, everything he was suddenly terrified of losing. Later that afternoon, fate, or something that liked pretending to be fate, put Ava Cross directly in his path. The Ridgewood post office was nearly empty, the way it always was after lunch. Sam stepped inside with Emma trailing behind him, the letter burning like a brand against his ribs. He hadn't planned on confronting anyone. He hadn't planned on doing anything at all. And then he saw her. Ava stood at the counter, mailing a padded envelope, her posture straight, her movements efficient. She looked like someone in control of her life. Someone unbothered. Until she turned. Her eyes found Sam instantly. Then the envelope in his hand. Then his face. The change was immediate and devastating. The calm she wore like armor shattered. Color drained from her skin. Her lips parted as if to speak, then closed again. For one unguarded moment, Sam saw something he hadn't seen before. Fear. Not irritation. Not guilt. Fear. Her gaze flicked to Emma, then back to Sam, sharp and calculating. Whatever she saw in his expression made her decision for her. She said nothing. Didn't acknowledge him. Didn't slow. She brushed past him, heels clicking too fast against the tile, and pushed through the glass doors into the afternoon light. Sam didn't follow her. He didn't need to. The letter in his pocket suddenly felt less like a warning and more like confirmation. Someone knew Ava was watching. Someone wanted Sam to know it too. That night, long after Emma was asleep, Sam sat at the kitchen table with the letter spread flat before him. He studied the words until they blurred, until they felt carved into the wood beneath his hands. A lawyer is watching you for a reason. Sam leaned back in his chair, eyes closing briefly as something solid settled in his chest. Whatever Ava Cross was hiding, it wasn't coincidence. And whoever had sent that letter had just drawn a line, one that ran straight through his daughter's life. Sam opened his eyes. He was done being watched. Sam waited 2 weeks before walking into Ava Cross's office. Not because he needed time to cool down, but because he needed time to think. Fear made people sloppy. Rage made them loud. Sam had learned, the hard way, that neither kept you alive for long. If Ava Cross was watching his daughter for a reason, then that reason mattered. And if someone else was watching both of them, then every move he made was already part of a larger board. So he chose patience. He chose paperwork. The insurance dispute was real, storm damage to the roof that the company kept delaying, burying him in polite letters and smaller print. It required a lawyer's signature, someone local, someone competent. Ridgewood had 4 practicing attorneys. He chose Ava. Her office sat above an old hardware store on Main Street, the kind of place with narrow stairs and a faint smell of dust and varnish that never quite went away. The sign on the door was modest. No slogans. No flourishes. Just her name, her profession, and a phone number. Sam knocked once and waited. "Come in," her voice called, steady and professional. The room was small but orderly. A heavy wooden desk dominated the space, scarred with years of use. Law books lined one wall, their spines worn but meticulously arranged. A single window overlooked Main Street, sunlight filtered through blinds that were angled just enough to prevent anyone from seeing in clearly. Ava sat behind the desk, already reviewing documents, glasses perched low on her nose. She looked up, and for a fraction of a second, she forgot herself. The recognition flashed across her face before she could stop it. Then it vanished. "Mr. Whitaker," she said smoothly, rising to shake his hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Too practiced. "Please, have a seat." Emma hovered at his side, peering around the room with curiosity. Ava's gaze dropped instantly, not to Sam, but to Emma. "Would you like some crayons?" Ava asked, already reaching into a drawer. Emma nodded shyly. Sam watched carefully as Ava handed her the box and gestured to a worn leather chair in the corner. There was no hesitation in her movements, no uncertainty. She knew how to make children comfortable. She had done this before. That thought tightened something in Sam's chest. As Ava returned to her seat, Sam noticed the tremor. Her right hand shook almost imperceptibly as she adjusted the stack of papers in front of her. She stilled it quickly, curling her fingers around a pen, but the damage was done. She was not as calm as she wanted him to believe. They reviewed the insurance documents together. Ava explained clauses with crisp clarity, her voice even, her eyes trained on the page. Every time Sam looked up, she looked down. Every time he leaned back, she leaned forward. A quiet choreography designed to avoid direct confrontation. But avoidance, Sam knew, was its own confession. Emma colored silently, humming to herself. Sam let the sound anchor him as he shifted tactics. "You moved here from Boston," he said casually. "That's a big change." Ava's pen paused for half a beat. It was time for something quieter. Ridgewood's quiet, Sam agreed. But not invisible. Her jaw tightened. "Have we met before?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. "Before you moved here, I mean." The room went still. Ava's breath caught. "Just once." Then she recovered. "No," she said too quickly. "I don't believe so." Sam didn't press. "Not yet." The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, until Emma looked up from her drawing. "Miss Ava?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart." Ava replied, instantly softening. "Why are you scared of my daddy?" The pen slipped from Ava's fingers and struck the desk with a sharp crack. Color rushed into her face, spreading down her neck beneath the collar of her blouse. She bent to retrieve the pen, hands clumsy now, breath uneven. "I'm not scared," she said lightly. "Just busy." Sam leaned back in his chair. "Once," Ava whispered. The word barely existed in the air, but Sam heard it. Her eyes widened. Panic flared. No. I misspoke. Sam held her gaze, unblinking. We definitely haven't met, he said quietly. I would remember. The meeting ended minutes later, paperwork signed, pleasantries exchanged. Ava stood to walk them out, regaining her composure piece by piece. As Sam lingered near the door, pretending to check his phone, Ava moved quickly to a filing cabinet in the corner. She opened a drawer, slid in a manila folder, and froze. She had already been seen. The tab bore a case number Sam didn't recognize. And beneath it, just visible before the drawer shut, a photograph. Emma. 3 years old. Purple Easter dress. Lake Tahoe. A photo that should not exist. Sam's blood turned to ice. As he left the office, his steps steady despite the storm raging inside him, one truth burned brighter than fear. Ava Cross wasn't just watching his daughter. She had been watching for a very long time. Sam did not drive home right away. He sat in his truck at the curb across from Ava Cross's office, hands resting on the steering wheel, engine off, the world muted behind the glass. The photograph replayed in his mind with brutal clarity, Emma's crooked smile, the purple Easter dress Sarah had insisted on buying even though it cost too much, the lake behind her reflecting a sky so blue it had felt unreal. A moment preserved from a life that no longer existed. A moment that had burned. Sam closed his eyes, and for an instant he smelled smoke again. Heard the groan of collapsing beams. Felt the heat that had chased him back from the bedroom while he screamed Sarah's name into a wall of fire. That laptop had melted into nothing. He had watched firefighters carry it out in pieces, plastic warped, metal twisted. That photo had died there. He knew it as surely as he knew his own name. And yet Ava Cross had it. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles ached. Rage rose, hot and disorienting, threatening to undo the careful control he had maintained since Emma was born. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't even surveillance. It was theft. Of memory. Of grief. Of something sacred. Sam checked his mirror, then pulled away from the curb, forcing himself to breathe. Emma chattered softly from the back seat, asking if they could stop for ice cream. Sam said yes automatically, his voice steady even as his thoughts fractured. He spent the afternoon on autopilot, ice cream, homework, dinner, but the photograph hovered at the edge of everything, a ghost refusing to be ignored. When Emma finally fell asleep, curled on her side with her rabbit tucked beneath her chin, Sam lingered in the doorway longer than usual. You don't belong to them, he whispered. He wasn't sure who them was yet. He found out 2 nights later. A soft sound woke him just after midnight, not a noise, exactly, but the absence of one. The house felt wrong. Too still. Sam lay motionless, listening. No footsteps. No voices. But his pulse quickened anyway. He rose quietly and checked Emma's room first. She slept peacefully, chest rising and falling, unaware of the war tightening around her life. The back door was locked. The windows intact. Nothing disturbed. Then he saw it. The kitchen light was on. Sam knew he had turned it off. He crossed the room slowly, heart pounding, and stopped short at the table. Another envelope. Plain white. Unmarked. Waiting. This one was thicker. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were several pages, neatly clipped together. Typed. Precise. And on top, a copy of the photograph. Sam staggered back as if struck. His stomach rolled. For a split second, the room tilted, the walls closing in. Someone had been inside his home. Someone had stood where he now stood, placed this on his table, and left without a sound. He forced himself to look at the papers beneath the photo. They weren't threats. They were records. Dates. Locations. Legal terminology dense with implication. His name appeared more than once. Emma's too. Redacted sections blacked out with ruthless efficiency. And at the bottom of the last page, a single sentence. She is alive because you don't know the truth. Sam's breath came in sharp bursts. Alive because he didn't know. A knock sounded at the door. Sam spun, every muscle screaming danger. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't call the police. He already knew who it was. Ava Cross stood on his porch, illuminated by the porch light, her face pale, eyes rimmed red as if she hadn't slept. She looked nothing like the composed lawyer from Main Street. She looked like a woman who had run out of time. I know what you saw, she said the moment he opened the door. And I know what you're thinking. But if you call the police, if you show anyone those papers, you will put your daughter in immediate danger. Sam stepped aside without a word, letting her in. The air between them crackled, thick with unspoken truths. Ava's gaze flicked instinctively toward the hallway leading to Emma's room. She's safe, Sam said coldly. For now. Ava swallowed. I was assigned to Emma's case before the fire, she said. Before you knew there was a case. Sam felt the ground shift beneath him. There was no accident, she continued, her voice shaking now. Your wife found something she wasn't supposed to. She tried to protect Emma the only way she could. The system failed her. And you? Sam demanded. What are you to us? Ava met his gaze at last, tears welling. I'm the reason your daughter is still breathing. The truth didn't explode. It crushed. And Sam Whitaker understood, in that moment, that everything he thought he knew about his life had been built on a lie carefully designed to keep him ignorant, and keep his child alive. The parking lot behind Ava Cross's office emptied slowly, like a held breath finally released. The sun dipped low enough to stretch shadows into long, distorted shapes across the cracked asphalt. A breeze stirred loose papers near the dumpster fence, the sound sharp in the quiet. Sam sat in his truck with the engine off, eyes fixed on the back door, every nerve drawn tight. He had followed routine for 2 days after Ava's midnight visit. School drop-offs. Work. Groceries. Normalcy worn like camouflage. But he had watched, mirrors, reflections, unfamiliar cars parked a beat too long. He had counted footsteps behind him, memorized faces at intersections. Someone had been inside his house. Someone had left proof. And Ava Cross had known it would happen. When the back door finally opened, Sam felt it before he saw her. Ava stepped out, briefcase tucked under one arm, keys already in hand. She moved quickly, purposefully, like someone who didn't want to linger in exposed places. The manila folder was visible beneath her arm. Sam opened his door and stepped out of the shadows. She stopped dead. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of distant traffic drifted in from Main Street. Ava's breathing was shallow, controlled with effort. Her knuckles whitened around the folder. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. You shouldn't have that file, Sam replied. He took a step closer. Ava didn't retreat, but her shoulders tensed, as if bracing for impact. I gave you time, she said. Time you needed. You broke into my house. Her jaw tightened. I prevented something worse. Sam laughed once, sharp and humorless. That's what everyone says. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the pages left on his kitchen table, letting them fan open in his hand. Ava's eyes flicked over them, then closed. You were warned not to contact me directly, Sam said. So tell me, who are they? Ava looked around the empty lot, then back at him. Not here. Then start talking, Sam snapped. Because I am done being managed like a liability. The word struck something in her. Ava exhaled slowly, shoulders sagging as if the fight had drained out of her. They're not watching you, she said. They're watching Emma. Sam's chest tightened. They always were. She finally loosened her grip on the folder and held it against her side, as if it were a shield. You think you've been kept in the dark because you don't matter, she continued. That's not true. You were kept in the dark because you do. Sam stepped closer still, lowering his voice. My wife died in a fire that was ruled accidental. My daughter is being followed by strangers. I find classified documents on my kitchen table and photos that should not exist. And you expect me to believe this is protection? Ava's eyes glistened. I expect you to believe that ignorance saved her life. The words hung between them, heavy and irrevocable. She was identified as a secondary asset, Ava said. Your wife didn't even realize what she'd uncovered at first. It looked like a routine legal discrepancy. Shell companies. Misallocated funds. But she kept digging. She was meticulous. Too meticulous. Sam's hands curled into fists. She wasn't supposed to die. No, Ava said hoarsely. She wasn't supposed to be noticed. The wind picked up, rattling the chain-link fence. Sam felt dizzy, as if the ground were subtly shifting beneath him. You're telling me, he said slowly, that my daughter has been living under someone else's jurisdiction. Yes. And you? Ava met his gaze, something resolute settling over her features. I was assigned as her legal guardian in absentia. A fail-safe. If something happened to you, I would take custody without delay. Sam's breath caught. Over my dead body. Ava didn't flinch. That was a possibility we accounted for. The silence that followed was suffocating. You watched her, Sam said. You followed us. I monitored threats, Ava replied. And when one got too close, I intervened. Sam remembered the playground. The fear on the other woman's face. How quickly she had retreated. She wasn't asking innocent questions, Ava continued. She was confirming identifiers. Sam felt cold all over. You sent the letter, he said. No, Ava replied. That was someone else trying to force your hand. Who? Ava hesitated. Just long enough. That's who you need to worry about. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Ava glanced toward the sound, then back at Sam. You want answers, she said. Then you need to understand something first. What? You don't get to protect your daughter alone anymore. Sam stared at her, rage and fear colliding in his chest. I never asked for this. Ava's voice softened, just slightly. Neither did she. She took a step back, toward her car, then paused. They're accelerating, she said. The fact that you saw the file means timelines are collapsing. And what happens when they collapse? Ava opened her car door. Truth stops being optional. She drove away, leaving Sam standing alone in the fading light, the weight of a war he hadn't chosen settling fully onto his shoulders. For the first time since the fire, Sam Whitaker understood something with terrifying clarity. Knowing the truth wouldn't save his daughter. But not knowing it might finally get her killed. Sam didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table long after the house had gone quiet, the overhead light turned off, the room illuminated only by the faint glow from the hallway nightlight spilling under Emma's door. The documents Ava had shown him, copies now burned into his memory, lay stacked neatly in front of him, untouched. He didn't need to read them again. The truth was already settling into him, heavy and irreversible. At just after 3 a.m, his phone vibrated. No number. Just a location pin and a single line of text. You deserve the whole truth. Come alone. Sam stared at the message for a long time. Then he stood, walked down the hallway, and paused at Emma's doorway. She slept on her side, rabbit tucked under her chin, lashes dark against her cheeks. For a moment, fear nearly stopped him. But another feeling pushed past it, resolve, hard and steady. He kissed her forehead lightly and whispered, "I'm doing this for you." The location led him 20 minutes outside town, up a narrow mountain road that cut through dense pine forest. The air grew colder as he climbed, fog curling low across the asphalt like something alive. His headlights caught only fragments of the road ahead, the rest swallowed by darkness. At the end of the road stood an abandoned ranger station, long shuttered, windows boarded, a single light glowing inside. Ava Cross waited by the door. She looked different now. No blazer. No briefcase. Just a dark coat pulled tight around her, hair loose around her shoulders. She didn't speak as he approached. She simply opened the door and stepped aside. Inside, the station smelled of dust and old wood. A single folding table stood in the center of the room. On it lay a thick file, far larger than the one Sam had seen before. A laptop sat open beside it. "This is everything," Ava said quietly. "No redactions. No protections left." Sam didn't sit. "Start talking." Ava took a breath that shook. "Your wife wasn't a victim of circumstance. She was targeted." Sam felt the words land like a blow. "Sarah was reviewing a civil case tied to a real estate trust," Ava continued. "It was supposed to be routine. But she noticed discrepancies, funds routed through shell entities tied to a private security contractor with federal immunity. She flagged it. Quietly. She wasn't a whistleblower," Sam said. "She hated attention. That's why she survived as long as she did," Ava replied. "And why they underestimated her." Ava turned the laptop toward him and pressed play. Sarah's voice filled the room. Not a recording Sam recognized. Not one he had ever heard. "If you're seeing this," Sarah said calmly, "then they've already figured out I won't stop." Sam's knees nearly gave out. Ava steadied him without thinking, then pulled her hand back. "She recorded contingency files," Ava said. "Multiple drops. Legal transfers. Custodial triggers." "Custodial?" Sam whispered. Ava swallowed. "Emma." Sam shook his head. "No. Don't say it." "They needed leverage," Ava said. And when Sarah realized that, she did the only thing she could. She made Emma legally untouchable. The screen changed. Legal documents scrolled past. Emergency filings. Sealed judgments. "Your daughter was placed under a silent protective jurisdiction," Ava said. "Not witness protection. Something older. Designed for situations where exposure equals death." Sam stared at the screen, nausea rising. "And me? You were the variable," Ava said softly. "A grieving father with no clearance, no access, no predictable response curve. You couldn't be trusted, not because you'd betray her, but because you'd fight." "That's what fathers do," Sam said hoarsely. Ava nodded. "Exactly." She closed the laptop. "The fire was meant to destroy evidence," she said. "It was meant to scare Sarah into backing off. It went wrong." Sam turned away, pressing his palms into his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. "So my daughter's whole life, every stranger, every watcher, was checking to see if the shield was still intact," Ava said. "If she still existed where she was supposed to exist. And now?" Ava met his gaze. "Now someone broke protocol. The letter. The intrusion. Someone wants you involved." "Why?" "Because you're no longer invisible," Ava said. "You've been observed observing. That makes you dangerous." Sam laughed quietly, a sound edged with disbelief. "I didn't ask for any of this." Ava's eyes softened. "Neither did Sarah. Neither did Emma." A distant sound echoed through the forest, an engine, low and slow. Ava stiffened. "They know you're here," she said. Sam's heart pounded, but his fear had shifted. It had hardened into something else. "What happens now?" he asked. Ava picked up the file and placed it into his hands. "Now the truth belongs to you." The headlights appeared through the trees, growing brighter. Sam straightened. "Then they picked the wrong father," he said. He stepped outside, the night air sharp in his lungs, Emma's face vivid in his mind. For years, the truth had been buried to keep his daughter alive. Now it had exploded into the open. And Sam Whitaker would do whatever it took to make sure it stayed that way.